Vanga once said that 2026 would not arrive quietly. She warned that certain zodiac signs would enter a period where fate itself begins pushing them forward, not toward luck, but toward the best version of their own lives. Not a fairy tale. Not a coincidence. A growth point, she called it. A gift for those finally ready to rise above their fears, their doubts, and their losses. Today, we go through each sign and what this year holds for them. Aries. For Aries, 2026 feels like someone finally opened a heavy door. From the first weeks, areas where you previously hit resistance will start moving at a different rhythm, direct, fast, without unnecessary delays. This is not the year of waiting for the right moment. This is the year you create it. Financially, the shift is real. Not random windfalls, but strategic steps that finally pay off. Projects you wanted to pursue but kept postponing will find their moment. People will appear who invest in your ideas because your ideas actually work. Professionally, Aries will be noticed exactly when others least expect it. Decisions will need to be made quickly, and those decisions will be the ones that matter. The inner state shifts to doubts that once created blockages begin to dissolve. What replaces them is clarity. The kind that only comes after real internal work. In relationships, misunderstandings will finally resolve. Partners show more openness. New connections carry real depth and real perspective. 2026 for Aries is a year where actions produce results, words carry weight, and plans stop being theory. Everything you invested earlier, this is the year it pays back. Taurus. For Taurus, 2026 marks the end of a long period of internal tension. The beginning of the year won't be dramatic. It will arrive as a quiet orderliness, the feeling that everything you fought for before was simply preparation for what's coming now. Financially, this is the year Taurus stops depending on mood or circumstance. Income becomes structured. Contracts, partnerships, smarter optimization of what already exists. The key shift is this: Taurus stops tolerating what drains them. Toxic relationships, unnecessary expenses, misdirections, they fall away, not through conflict, but through clarity. Professionally, reputation begins working for you. Doors that were previously closed start opening because you've proven you don't disappoint. Leadership positions, key roles, responsible projects, not out of sympathy, but out of earned trust. In relationships, stability arrives. Doubts resolve. Connections that lacked honesty reveal their true nature, and Taurus finally stops settling for less. Vanga spoke of people who enter a time when the harvest is greater than the sowing. For Taurus, 2026 is exactly that. Steady, logical, predictable growth, not chaos, but maturity. And that is its power. Gemini. For Gemini, 2026 is the year every previous effort finds its continuation. What's been stagnant begins to move. Where there was waiting, there's finally action. And Gemini's greatest trait, the ability to think faster and broader than everyone else, becomes a strategic weapon this year, not just a personality quirk. Financially, Gemini finally builds structure. Sources of income are sorted, unnecessary ones cut, stable ones strengthened. This is the year you stop relying on speed alone and start using consistency. That combination produces results that don't disappear. Professionally, opportunities appear in areas that only had limitations before. New contracts, new roles, and offers that go beyond the usual scope. Horizons expand sharply, and very noticeably. In relationships, 2026 brings transparency. Gemini becomes more willing to have direct conversations that solve problems rather than create new ones. New connections carry meaning, logic, and genuine perspective. The inner state shifts most significantly. The mental noise that has always characterized Gemini starts quieting. Thinking becomes more structured, calmer, more focused. The ability to actually finish things appears, and that alone will be one of the most important changes of the year. Cancer. For Cancer, 2026 begins not with a sudden impulse, but with the feeling of invisible tension finally beginning to retreat. Vanga spoke of those who guard their hearts, that a path would appear, opened by something greater than circumstance. For Cancer in 2026, this feels true. Financially, Cancer stops placing others' interests above their own stability, not out of selfishness, but out of the realization that your own foundation matters. Income becomes more structural, less dependent on emotion or mood. Projects arrive that directly affect earning potential. Professionally, doors open where there were walls. If your work involves intuition, empathy, or deep understanding of people, 2026 reveals you fully. Recognition comes from those who previously doubted you, not suddenly, but as the natural result of years of work that Vanga described as strength returning to those who never wasted it. In relationships, unresolved questions finally move forward. Where there were wounds, an opportunity to release them arrives. Where there is loneliness, someone appears who is genuinely on the same wavelength without idealization, but with real meaning. The inner transformation is the deepest gift. Cancer stops carrying everything for everyone. The weight of other people's expectations begins to lift. And what replaces it is something rare: the quiet, steady confidence of knowing your own worth. Leo enters 2026 not searching for opportunity but finally seeing the space that's ready to receive their power. The beginning of the year comes not with a loud announcement, but with a feeling. The inner fire is no longer contained. The obstacles that once drained energy lose their power. Leo moves out of the accumulation phase and into the phase of manifestation. This is the year Leo no longer has to prove worth, it gets recognized automatically. Not because people changed, but because something internal changed first. Professionally, the rise is strategic. Initiatives and ambitions that have long deserved to be seen will be, this year. Leadership opportunities appear. Influence grows. And importantly, the ability to take charge becomes an asset, not a burden. Financially, income stops being unstable. A clear, logical path to solid results emerges. Leo begins earning smarter, not harder, and the result is predictable, stable, and deserved. In relationships, Leo stops settling. Clarity replaces hesitation. Where love and reciprocity exist, the foundation deepens. Where there's loneliness, someone arrives who brings their own strength, not someone looking to borrow Leo's. The inner transformation is about maturity. Leo stops living to meet expectations and starts building real boundaries through self-respect, not aggression. The energy that returns from this shift will power everything else the year brings. Virgo enters 2026 with something unfamiliar: calm clarity. The tension that has been accumulating for years begins to ease. An inner space opens up where movement feels free, not forced. What once exhausted Virgo stops taking energy. And in its place comes a quiet, determined desire to build, to finish, to begin something new. Financially, this is the year income becomes stable and logical. Virgo's systematicity, always a character trait, becomes a competitive advantage that others finally see. You are no longer just a specialist. You are someone who can organize a process so it works without errors. Professionally, competence gets recognized. Projects that once seemed too complex get completed, and completed well. Promotions, new roles, greater responsibility, and none of it feels like a burden. It feels like a reward. In relationships, maturity arrives. Conflicts and uncertainties resolve. Someone appears who needs no proof of Virgo's worth, they simply see it. For those already in relationships, the partnership deepens into something honest and genuinely stable. The most important internal shift is this: Virgo stops taking responsibility for everything. The ability to relax, truly relax, appears. For a sign that so rarely allows this, 2026 is the year it becomes natural. Vanga said Virgo's happiness comes when she stops living by the standards of others. This year, that finally happens. Libra, for Libra, 2026 is the year the world begins responding to their desires, not just to external circumstances. The clarity that arrives isn't sudden. It builds gradually, step by step. Questions that once seemed impossible to answer begin to yield to Libra's own will. And the hesitation that has defined many past decisions, trying to balance personal comfort against everyone else's expectations, begins to disappear. Financially, structure replaces chaos. Income flows stabilize. A clear understanding of where money comes from and how to distribute it wisely finally emerges. Many Libras find new sources of income or receive projects that have long been waiting for someone with exactly their abilities. Professionally, Libra steps into a role that matches their true level. For too long, this sign has operated below their real potential, held back by uncertainty, by conflict avoidance. In 2026, that changes. Decisiveness grows. And the result is that Libra begins to be seen as someone who can lead, organize, and move things forward. In relationships, what was unspoken for too long finally becomes clear. Libra's internal decision becomes simple: honesty or distance. Where love is real, it deepens. Where it was built on uncertainty, a final answer emerges. The greatest gift of 2026 for Libra is emotional groundedness. The dependence on other people's moods weakens. A quiet, adult steadiness takes its place, and that internal peace begins to reshape everything around it. Scorpio enters 2026 holding the key to their own decisions, and they know it. The inner assembly that arrives at the start of the year is unusual. Complex situations stop feeling unpredictable. This is not calm for the sake of calm. This is the readiness to act precisely and without hesitation. Vanga spoke of those who, in the year of great clarity, would see the path others miss. Scorpio will not only see it, they will walk it. Everything that has been slowing down Scorpio's development begins to lose its grip. Not through dramatic confrontation, but through a gradual, irreversible process of the unnecessary falling away. People who cannot keep pace leave on their own. Financially, Scorpio shifts from impulse to strategy. The ability to see weaknesses in projects, in logic, in people, this becomes a major tool. New sources of income appear, and they're stable, not one-off. Scorpio stops agreeing to secondary roles and takes what they can genuinely control. Professionally, Scorpio steps into the position the world has long been offering them. Recognition arrives from those who once underestimated them, not by coincidence, but because inner strength has finally become visible. In relationships, precision replaces tolerance. Scorpio stops making excuses for people who don't deserve them. Where genuine connection exists, it deepens significantly. Where there's loneliness, someone arrives who speaks directly, and that is exactly what Scorpio needs. The inner transformation is the foundation of everything. Emotions stop hiding, but they also stop dominating. Depth becomes a source of control, not chaos. And that shift changes everything. Sagittarius, for Sagittarius, 2026 begins with a change not in circumstances, but in internal scale. The frameworks that seemed so clear yesterday no longer feel limiting. The need to explain yourself to others where you're going, why you're going there, quietly disappears. What replaces it is a confidence that needs no approval. Vanga called this the golden state of a person who has finally found their direction. Sagittarius stops moving for the sake of movement and begins acting for results. This is the core transformation of the year. And it starts from the very first weeks, when everything that previously held you back loses its power. Financially, precision arrives where there was once impulsiveness. Income becomes strategic, not the result of adventure, but of clear professional decisions. New collaborations, new directions, scaling of what already works. Financial choices become so accurate they provide stability long after the year ends. Professionally, ideas that once seemed too bold for others become relevant. People begin to see Sagittarius not just as someone who proposes new paths, but as someone who can lead others down them. Thinking outside the box stops being called a risk, it gets called an advantage. In relationships, the year brings maturity. Sagittarius stops holding on to connections that have no real future. Where partnership is genuine, it grows stronger. Where there's loneliness, someone arrives who doesn't try to limit freedom, they move alongside it. 2026 ends for Sagittarius with inner strength that needs no external confirmation. This was the turning point, not because of lucky breaks, but because of a transformation that touched every area of life. Capricorn enters 2026 with one clear awareness: the time to rise has arrived. The beginning of the year doesn't come as an emotional surge. It arrives as structure. An orderliness Capricorn has long been working toward finally clicks into place. The need to prove anything disappears. There's no more scattering, no more internal resistance. Just the calm readiness to act with maximum precision. Financially, Capricorn stops working on volume and starts acting strategically. Opportunities appear in directions where real skills, endurance, consistency, the ability to see things through bring genuine profit. These are not bursts of luck. This is logical, irreversible growth. Professionally, Capricorn reaches the level they have long deserved. New positions, new areas, new partnerships, all united by one factor. They require your strategy, your consistency, your ability to finish what you start. Leadership stops being something to demonstrate. It gets recognized automatically. In relationships, 2026 brings honesty. Capricorn stops being silent where honesty matters, and stops tolerating where there is no genuine growth. Stable relationships become calmer, deeper, more equal. For those who are single, someone arrives who sees Capricorn's worth immediately without needing it to be explained. The inner shift is perhaps the most valuable thing of all. The weight of constant responsibility begins to lift, not because the responsibilities disappear, but because they stop feeling insurmountable. A quiet maturity settles in. Vanga described this as peace given to those who have carried the burden for a long time but never fallen. 2026 ends for Capricorn with a quiet, steady victory. The kind everyone can see even without a single word being said about it. Aquarius enters 2026 with the feeling that the world has suddenly become wider and the horizon closer. This is not inspiration. This is not impulse. This is a clarity that only arrives when a person is ready to think differently. The internal constraints that have held Aquarius back stop working. The need to explain ideas, to justify logic, to wait for others to catch up, it falls away. Aquarius begins acting the way they always wanted to. And that shift changes everything. Financially, 2026 is a breakthrough built on unconventional thinking combined with strategic execution. Aquarius has always seen what others miss, but in previous years, those insights didn't always translate into material results. This year they do. Income grows through precise professional decisions, not risks. Non-standard thinking stops being a vulnerability and becomes a financial advantage. Professionally, Aquarius steps out of the shadow of their own doubts. People begin seeing them as more than a specialist, as someone who sets the tone. Positions that require intellectual courage, strategy, and fresh approaches arrive. This is the year Aquarius stops being an alternative perspective and becomes the new standard. In relationships, uncertainty disappears. Those who cannot maintain real depth fall away naturally. Where genuine connection exists, it becomes stronger. For those who are single, someone arrives who doesn't treat freedom as a threat, they share it. The most profound shift happens internally. The long-standing conflict between emotion and rationality dissolves. For the first time, both sides work together. Vanga described this as power given to those whose heart no longer fights their mind. 2026 is that year for Aquarius. Pisces enters 2026 as if finally finding their way back to themselves after a long period of inner contradiction. The beginning of the year is quiet but unmistakable. The heart works more clearly. Thoughts stop scattering. And intuition, always Pisces' greatest strength, gains extraordinary accuracy. What was once emotional noise becomes a system of clear signals pointing in one direction. Financially, Pisces stops working in situations where rules are imposed on them from outside. Instead, space opens for decisions that are genuinely their own. New sources of income appear, new forms of earning that are more stable and more aligned with who Pisces actually is. The revenues this year are not random, they arrive because thoughts, emotions, and goals are finally moving together. Professionally, Pisces surprises even themselves. Doubt gives way to sobriety. Indecision gives way to precision. The people around them stop seeing a dreamer and start recognizing a strategist who understands more than they say. In relationships, clarity replaces tolerance. Pisces begins to set boundaries where they were previously afraid to. The right people remain and move closer. Those who built their connection on Pisces' vulnerabilities leave on their own. For those who are single, a meeting arrives without pressure, easy, natural, and real. The inner transformation is the deepest one of all. Self-doubt begins to dissolve. For the first time in a long time, Pisces feels enough exactly as they are. This single shift changes how decisions get made, how people get chosen, and how life gets lived. Vanga said that hearts which do not seek battle will find peace. For Pisces, 2026 is that peace. Across all 12 signs, Vanga's vision for 2026 carries one consistent thread. This is not a year of random luck. It is a year of return to clarity, to strength, to the life that was always waiting once the fear was set aside. Whatever sign you carry, the message is the same. The door is open. The question is simply whether you're ready to walk through it. If this resonated with you, take a moment today. Not to plan. Not to worry. Just to be still. Because that stillness is often where life begins to move.